Between 2006 and 2009, the University of PEI on the eastern coast of Canada offered a Master of Education program to 27 Inuit women in the Nunavut Territory of Canada's Eastern Arctic. The goal of this short presentation is to illustrate the use of computer-supported collaborative learning based on knowledge-building principles and the Knowledge Forum online environment within this program. The presentation will outline the challenges facing the program, how CSL was used to address these challenges within an Inuit context, and some of the lessons learned. The Nunavut MEd had to address 3 sets of challenges. In terms of geography, it had to reach 27 students in 8 communities scattered across the top 20% of Canada. There were no roads between these communities. Students could come together for short face-to-face courses, but the time, cost, and chances of inclement weather were staggering. In terms of technology, all communities have internet access and students have computers. However, the internet is completely satellite-based and erratic for anything but the most mundane tasks. Synchronous multi-point multimedia environments such as Illuminate and iVocalize do not work reliably. Dedicated video conferencing links are available, but priority access goes to telehealth. Finally, in terms of programming, we tried to address a number of different questions. First of all, how do we create a coherent program that integrates Inuit and Western knowledge education from 10 courses offered over 3 years by a variety of instructors? Second, how can we contribute to the creation of a community of Inuit educational scholars? And finally, how can we do this when a survey conducted in 1995 documented that Inuit educators were only 1/3 as likely as their non-Inuit peers to take graduate courses by distance education? CSCL was an integral part of addressing these challenges. It's important to note, however, that the online portion of the course was not intended simply to be an instrumental and cost-effective vehicle for delivering courses. It was intended, on the other hand, to support an overall emphasis on decolonization. The framework for the CSL contribution to the Nunavut MEd attempts to pull together 2 different conceptual perspectives. The first draws on Skardame and Bereiter's knowledge-building principles as adapted during my work in the 1990s with the K-12 school system in the Eastern Arctic. I found it was useful to gather these principles around 3 organizing concepts: community, agency, and ideas. In other words, knowledge building is carried out by a community of people with individual and collective responsibilities, that is, agency, for working with and improving ideas. Since the creation of Nunavut in 1999, public institutions have been attempting to structure themselves around principles derived from Inuit traditional knowledge, Inuit Kauyimiakdukangit. As the diagram in this slide illustrates, 6 of these principles are what we might call relational. That is, they deal with how people relate to each other and the world. This has, I think, strong parallels to the community dimension of the knowledge-building principles. Our use of CSL in the program in 2006-2009 was our attempt to build on this parallel. The enabling technology we finally settled upon was Knowledge Forum, a web-based asynchronous environment designed less to support distributing information than to facilitate collaborative interaction to create new knowledge. It had been successfully used, as I mentioned before, in a number of Nunavut schools. It also supported Inuktitut in English and had limited bandwidth requirements. We set up one Knowledge Forum database for the whole program. Each course had a home view and as many subviews as were needed. One of the innovations that enabled us to address the challenge of text-heavy courses, such as educational research methods, was narrated PowerPoint introductions to course readings. Essentially podcasts, they were compressed for distribution within internet bandwidth using a program called Empatica. Prepared by the instructors, none of whom were technical experts, they allowed adaptation of material through northern examples and analogies and could be accessed and reaccessed by students as their needs dictated. The students also made use of the multimedia capabilities of the system. For example, using natural media digital drawing software, this student constructed a graphic metaphor for the intersection of traditional Inuit and contemporary Western knowledge. Tools built into knowledge form allowed us to look at the extent to which the instructional design decentered the instructor and encouraged student-to-student dialogue. In other words, the impact of the instructional design on collaboration. Using social network analysis, the image on the left illustrates an instruction line in which the vast majority of the interaction was between the students and the instructor. Although very effective in the sense that the students felt validated by the instructor's attention, it also illustrated that there was very little of what Marlene Scardamelia calls collective cognitive responsibility. On the other hand, the image to the right illustrates the impact of an instructional design in which the students were broken into small groups and asked to organize themselves around the task. The instructional decisions in this case shaped more collaborative interactions, and I'm going to share some of the students' responses to that in the next few slides. This slide contains an excerpt from a student note in the course that was presented by the second example on the previous slide. It illustrates the student's agency as she undertakes to organize her small group in the final portion of their pre-course assignment. She says, "We are given space to put our knowledge together. This is a time to lean on each other and support each other, as this type of networking will be our foundation for our upcoming final course. This is the time to practice." In this example, she articulates both the overall purpose of the online environment, that is a network of community learners, and the specific actions necessary to complete the task: name, reflect, and act. She says, "We're creating a network of community learners where we are our own agencies." You can note the second language challenge here. Let's name, reflect, and act on each other's portfolios. She concludes with a flash of humor that relegates the course instructors to a position on the sideline. As she says, "Let's have fun with this space and pretend that our instructors are away on vacation." Excerpts from student interviews show overwhelming support for the online environment and further evidence of student agency. The interviewees suggested that the online environment be left accessible for their own future use, as well as being part of future Nunavut MEd programs. We drew three main lessons from our experiences between 2006 and 2009. First of all, the Cscl environment made a substantial contribution to the creation of a community of Inuit educational scholars. Secondly, we found that there was support for continuing its role in the next round, which is being offered between 2010 and 2013, and that we needed to strengthen and enhance that role. And finally, we found that instructors needed more consistent support, better capitalize on this potential. This screenshot illustrates some of the changes to the Knowledge Forum environment in the current round of the Nunavut MEd. First of all, the students were introduced to the graphically enhanced version of the program. While it's Java-based and therefore somewhat less reliable over satellite internet connections, it allows easier integration of graphics and provides a two-dimensional knowledge building space in which participants can use spatial relationships to represent meaning. As the window shows, students who wish can also use the syllabic fonts in which Inuktitut is written in the Eastern Arctic to post notes in their own language. As well as the primary medium for the courses offered at a distance, Knowledge Forum is used as an online introductory support to the intense face-to-face courses that make up the bulk of the program. This extends student engagement with the course material and creates a persistent record of their contributions from which they can draw over the life of the program. The images on this slide show how some of the older students in the program taught a younger student how to light and tend a quidlik, which is a seal lamp traditionally used by Inuit. In a sense, it's a metaphor for the program as a whole and for the CSL portion in particular.